It's time for Pod of the Dead. Join us.
Welcome. Wait, that's not how I start this. There it is.
What are we doing?
Hello, welcome to Pod of the Dead. I am your host, Nicholas, and with me, as always, are the two final girls, Stephanie and Natasha.
Hi, guys.
On today's episode, we are covering the 1992 film Braindead, but in America, Dead Alive. Coming into this this episode, what is your girls' history with this movie or the director?
I know of the director, Peter Jackson, but aside from that, all I knew about the movie was just your PSA about it's going to be bloody, and god damn it, why did we agree to this, Steph? Why?
Well, it kind of, we'll talk about it in a minute, but I'm kind of with Tasha on this. Like, Nick's like, you want gory, we're gonna give you some bloody stuff. And mind you, we've watched Evil Dead 2, so we're like, well, you know, we've been there, we've seen that stuff. And
oh no, you haven't.
Yeah, so we put ourselves through this, and I don't mind gore. Tasha doesn't like it, but I don't mind it. But this was needless to say, Peter Jackson. I'm planning to go see one of his movies today. I freaking love him. He made Lord of the Rings, but I would have never guessed this was the same person.
Yeah, this was his third film. He'd done two films prior to this, Bad Taste and Meet the Feebles, and this is considered part of his splatter trilogy. All three of those films. Meet the Feebles, though, is like a puppet splatter film. So it's it's like Muppets and stuff. It's like this weird like crime noir film that's just insanely violent. And then Bad Taste is like an alien invasion film. But yeah, this is crazy. It was also funded by the New Zealand Film Commission. Like this. So, Tasha, would you like to tell us exactly what I put you guys through? Oh, you forgot to do your homework, didn't you? I see your face.
Yeah, hold up. Pause for
dramatic effect.
Because I had just watched it and I was like, I really don't want to have to now read about it.
Well, while you're looking that up, I will say, you're fine. I will say that this movie is considered in some regards to be the bloodiest film ever made. Because there are certain scenes in which like 300 liters of blood were used just in a scene. So you got that, Tasha? Got it?
Yeah.
All right,
what
do we got?
Now that you mentioned it was called Braindead, I was having a hard time even finding it on Wikipedia because it directs you back to this other one. Do you know why they changed the name?
Yeah, so it was called Braindead in New Zealand. It's called a lot of different other names in different countries. The reason being is trademarking for the film Braindead was already taken for another film. So in the States, it was released as Dead Alive, and I have a litany of different names that we'll touch on after we find out what this movie is that are pretty interesting.
All right, Dead Alive is a 1992 New Zealand zombie comedy splatter film directed by Peter Jackson and produced by Jim Booth, written by Stephen Sinclair and Fran Walsh. It's based on the original story idea by Sinclair and starring Timothy Balmy, among others. The plot follows Lionel, a young man living in South Wellington, with his strict mother Vera after Lionel becomes romantically entangled with a girl named Vakita. Vera is bitten by a hybrid rat monkey creature and begins to transform into a zombie, while also infecting swaths of the city's populace.
Yep, that covers it pretty well.
The movie.
Now, when I told you girls about this film and everything and got your okay for it,
that's the crazy thing.
I told you there's a love story in this and it's bloody. I didn't lie, did I?
No. That's true.
But you didn't say how good or bad it was. Well, I guess you think it's good, so that's all here or there. But
so it's inherently bad.
Yeah.
Very rarely will I bring up a film that I don't think is interesting or entertaining in some facet, whether that means it's the greatest film ever or what. This movie I brought because you girls had basically, in my head, kind of challenged me in a way where you're just like, no, like nothing's going to be, whatever. Like after doing this podcast for so long, I feel like I've seen everything is kind of like the tone. And I was like, oh, okay. Then we'll knock this one off of your guys' list. And that's why I drug you girls back down into the gutter.
Literally.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like when the movie started, it like lulls you into this like sense of, I don't know, like it's really not going to be that bad. Like because it's so slow starting, and then it just keeps ramping up, and then it just gets worse. So I'm sitting here, I'm like, is he really making us watch this? And it's like, it's just not so bad, like in terms of how ridiculous it gets, and then it just fucking jumps off a damn cliff, and then we've got all kinds of ridiculousness. We'll get into it after spoilers, but geez, okay.
Yeah, in different countries, this film is known in Brazil as Animal Hunger, and in Hungary as Corpses with an exclamation point. In Italy, it is known as Splatterers, the brain splatterers.
Yeah.
Poland, it's known as brain necrosis.
That's a cool name.
And Spain has the best title. It's called Your Mother Has Eaten My Dog.
It's good.
So
That's hilarious.
I love that. Some interesting bits and stuff. If you're listening to us and you've not seen Dead Alive or Braindead or whatever, but this is kind of a weird thing to bring up because you more than likely know who Peter Jackson is. Guy that did Lord of the Rings, the King Kong remake, the Hobbit films, all this stuff, right? What is really neat, though, is in the opening scenes of this movie, this isn't giving anything away, but this is just a kind of neat little tidbit. So, like, when they are in the Skull Island, which is where King Kong is from.
Yep.
Because Peter Jackson's a huge King Kong fan. The shot where they're kind of in this, like, valleyed area, he reuses that exact same spot for the Paths of the Dead.
And the Lord of the Rings, yeah.
Yep, in the Return of the King. That's the exact same spot where Aragorn goes to meet the dead or whatever.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, and again, this film, 99% New Zealand actors and stuff. The only person that isn't is Diana Penelver. I'm going to butcher that, but she's the one that plays Paquita.
Mm-hmm.
Paquita, like, watching this film, like, her acting's really weird and all this stuff and over the top. I found out why. This is her first movie, really, that was not a Spanish soap opera. And that makes 100% sense. And then also the score in this film, I was even saying, it's got a weird, like, soap opera feel, like the music in this. And I'm wondering if that is, obviously, it has to be very purposeful for Peter Jackson to be like, we're doing this love story in this film. I'm going to cheese the fuck out of it and make it super melodramatic.
Well, like the first quarter of the film feels like a telenovela. Like that's but in English. That's the only thing that it felt like to me because it was so over the top. And even the lighting and like the softness of some of it and like the way that, it gets us into the love story and how ridiculous like it is. It's so... that's what it feels like to me, like a soap opera, but like a Spanish soap opera. And so, which I've watched quite a few of those. So yeah, it was very, it was interesting to say the least. So it makes sense that they would have hired her because that's what they were trying to achieve.
It's been one of those things that has always struck me as very strange until I started researching this. I was just like, what? Not like, oh, why her? Why not someone else? But it's such an interesting, like, casting. It's like very like there's something about this that is, for lack of a better term, lost in translation. Like the Kiwi sensibility, the New Zealand, like what they find to be funny or whatever, was kind of lost on me in that sense until I was like researching. I was like, oh, that all fucking makes sense, that they're trying to, like, it's literally like on one side of the table, you've got the young and the restless, or as the world turns and stuff. And then the other is literally just the bloodiest shit that you've probably ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely an interesting juxtaposition.
It's something.
So let's see here. So you guys have also seen Reanimator. You can go back and listen to our episode Reanimator.
Yep.
Peter Rayner of the Los Angeles Times enjoyed the film, stating that it is the most hilariously disgusting movie ever made, and it makes something like Reanimator seem like a documentary about Mother Teresa.
They're just different.
But
Reanimator is definitely tame in comparison to this.
Yeah, but
Which is shocking. A sentence I thought I would never say.
But the difference is you get lots of titties and penises and all the nudity and stuff in Reanimator.
Yeah.
You don't get that at all in this, which is a huge difference because that is like literally a decent portion of Reanimator.
Hell yeah.
And I even said it right, so there you go.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for putting respect on that name. So, this movie, though, is like perfect for like a triple feature of like this, Reanimator, and like Evil Dead 2. Like you can literally see a through line of like this style where it's just, it's not trying to be, well, I mean, Reanimator, when they were making it, was trying to be serious, but I have a hard time believing that when you watch it and you're just like, no, there's so much camp in this. It's so funny.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's obviously debatable, but like, if you look at like IMDb and it's like more like this, it's like Evil Dead 2, Return of the Living Dead, Reanimator, like all of that kind of stuff. These are the films that sculpted me into the upstanding citizen that you see in front of you today.
Okay.
I honestly remember seeing this before The Lord of the Rings. So we're talking about like, it was probably like freshman year in high school, maybe even middle school that I saw this for the first time. And it was a VHS copy. Like I vividly remember the cover of like the woman's face, like pulled open with the skull face. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And I'm pretty sure this was like Andrew and Logan and just being like we were always just trying to find the weirdest, craziest films. Like in that run is when I first saw like A Clockwork Orange and all. Like that's probably also the first time I saw Evil Dead 2, probably, because I didn't see that until like middle school or something like that. So
I mean, I didn't see it until I was grown, so I can't see.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
we can't say that about Wesley because Mr. Wesley came downstairs and watched the second half of the film with us.
he did.
Of this one?
Of this one. He fucking loved it. And he was like, that is so great. I love this. And I was like, dude, what the
All right. It's definitely for someone.
It is.
It's one of those things. It's very I don't want to say immature, but it's that quality of just like fart
100%
joke, like just like stupid, but like
100%
so over the top. And that you will never, ever see a movie like this again. I feel
I hope not.
Yeah. We will not agree to another movie like this.
No.
Yeah, you won't agree to it, but it's going to happen.
And that's the thing I keep going back to is like, you gave us ample warning multiple times as if like, guys, you don't want to watch this.
Yeah,
and we still agreed.
I knew that this wasn't up your guys' alley, but the fact that you guys were like, you have shown us so many different things. There can't be anything else that blah, blah, blah. And I was like, fucking bet. Like, here we go. Like, we're going to throw you right off the deep end. We're going to go as bloody as we can. Now, this is the thing. If this film were, like, there are other films, obviously, that are just as gory and stuff like that, right? The thing, though, is this film is a lot easier to watch because it's not serious or anything like that.
It's not at all.
So, like, to think of, like, how brutally gross this film can get in its last half. There are films, I know I always use this as the benchmark, but it's because it's in a super popular gory film, is like Hostel, right? Hostel is a very serious film, and it's insanely gory. Because it's serious, that gore hits harder and is a lot more grueling, where this is so like there's so much levity in it that like it's gross, but it's not even close to real. Like it's so over the top.
So much. There's not. You have to keep adding that over and over and over again, because no.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm going to give a few more things before we get into spoiler territory. Okay. These things are not meant to change your opinions or anything, but I kind of want you guys to know this going into everything. So, if you go on IMDb, all right, Dead Alive is the highest rated horror film for 1992 with a 7.5. That's 104,000 reviews. Okay. So like even more so than the highest grossing horror film for that year, which was where is it? Bram Stoker's Dracula, which came out that year.
Okay. So that's the Keanu Reeves movie, right?
Yep. Okay. 1992 was not a great year for horror upon looking. It's got one of your girl's favorite films, though. Buffy the Vampire Slayer came out that year. And if you'd like to hear how much they loved that and how much I loved it, go back and listen to that episode. Yeah. Also that year, Death Becomes Her came out.
Oh, that was a really good movie. Okay.
Army of Darkness came out that year.
Oh, that movie's not good. I don't know.
Alien 3, Hellraiser 3, Maniac Cop 3.
That's a lot of 3.
And Candyman, the original Candyman came out that year. Okay. So there are some good movies, but like this is really the time. The year prior is where Silence of the Lambs comes out. So this is the time where that's how horror is going to go. And it's like, oh, horror gets like, it starts getting recognition. It's like, it's because it's really tamed back and it's more about the drama of it than the horror, which to each their own. I mean, our A24 month that just happened is kind of like a mixture of those two. It's the drama bit is like the driving force, but then like when it wants to be horror, it's very extreme in that sense. But like around this time is when you're starting to get what is it? Single white female and Hand That Rocks the Cradle and shit like that. Okay. So that's this era. And then this fucking comes out. All right. So this came out 1992. What do you think its budget was? Mind you, it was funded by the New Zealand Film Commission. So the country itself funded this.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of creature design in this, realistically. Very practical effects. But that doesn't mean anything because we watched movies that have that and it's cost still next to nothing in budget. So
yeah, this movie has 650 models and masks that were created for this film. It was also the biggest special effects film in the Southern Hemisphere at the time.
Okay. I'm going to go with 7 million.
Was this a movie like the Chiodos Brothers movie where they did all the work for...
No, this was actually...
So keeping it cheaper? No? Okay.
Not really. I mean, like, it's not an insane budget, but, like, when you, like, look at it, you're like, this clearly couldn't have that much of a budget, but it actually has a better budget than you'd expect.
Okay.
So, yeah, not out of pocket. Like I said, the country funded it no different than they fund, like... period piece films and the opera and stuff like that. Like this was literally funded as like they do it for a lot of films as a way to export New Zealand culture.
Come see New Zealand.
Yeah.
Watch this movie.
Yeah, I watched like a 20-minute like news interview, like if you were watching like the 7:00 news where they're like, so this is what they're doing and blah blah blah. And like the guy that's doing the like report is totally not about this movie. And, like they showed up the day that there is the zombie intimate scene. We'll just put it that way.
Oh my gosh.
All right, moving on.
Yes.
I'm gonna say $8.5 million budget.
Okay. So 1992, this movie was made for $3 million.
Oh, wow.
Oh, way off. Okay.
And I do not have a global box office for this. I only have the US box office. So keep that in mind.
Okay.
I will say, though, what I do have is that the weekend, I believe it is, that this came out in New Zealand. Where is it? There it is. On its initial release in its home turf of New Zealand, this movie earned more per screen than Batman Returns, which was the highest grossing film of the year.
Wow.
So for every screen it was on, it made more money per screen than Batman did.
Okay.
Granted, Batman made way more money and was on way more screens.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, so
for the US budget.
Yeah, it's US box office.
Box office, yeah. I'm gonna go with 1 million.
Oh, I was thinking much higher. Top grossing. You said it was top grossing horror movie of that year?
No.
Oh.
no. No.
Okay.
No, the top grossing one was Bram Stoker's Dracula. This is just
that's right.
This is just the highest rated on IMDb.
Highest rated. Okay, that really changes.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. No. This movie is not a box office smash. I would love to live in a world in 1992 where Peter Jackson's Braindead, Dead Alive fucking just breaks all the records.
750,000.
It made just shy of $250,000. So it made $242,623 in the US.
Okay.
I could not imagine going to the theater and watching this.
God, I would love.
You would love
to.
that. Yeah.
With the right group of people, like that's the prime thing. This movie is one of those things that like it's make it or break it on its crowd. Obviously, like that's could be said about every fucking movie, right? If people like it, they like it. No, but like if you're the more people that you're with watching it that are into it, the more you will enjoy it because it's so fucking outlandish. Like prime example is just it was a week or two ago. I went to the theaters and saw In a Violent Nature, which is like a new slasher film, but it's like from the perspective of the slasher and you're following him and all this stuff. The movie's not the greatest film ever, but all the kills in it are super over the top. And if you like gory stuff and everything, give it a watch. But I was in that theater with probably 20 people or whatever, and they were all like-minded like me. Like when that was happening and it was so gross and everything, we were just laughing because it's so outrageous. And because everybody was aware, like the uncomfortability was like cut, you like hear someone else laugh, it made you more comfortable to laugh at the absurdity of it. So like the crowd was literally like, oh my fucking God, like out loud in the theater, which usually isn't okay in a lot of films, but this was what that film was made to do. And that's what this Dead Alive is basically the same. It's like you're not going there like shh, I need to see what happens in this blender scene. You're just going like, what the fuck am I watching?
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
But like I said, so to give you guys a kind of a viewpoint of 1992, I've already said that Batman Returns was the highest grossing film for that year. This was also the same year that Lethal Weapon 3 came out, Sister Act, Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, Wayne's World, Basic Instinct, A League of Their Own, Aladdin, The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, and Under Siege came out. So this is like
That's a really good year. I know. That's amazing.
I think I've seen every single one of those movies.
I think I've seen it. Well, I don't think I saw The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, but I've seen everything else on that list.
I think I've seen it because that's totally a movie that I believe Mom watched.
Yeah.
So I'm 90. That and like Basic Instinct, I do remember being a film that I was not allowed to watch.
Okay.
I later ended up seeing it. But yeah, like I remember that. Like that was a big thing like back then. It was like these like quote unquote horror, thriller, whatever you want to call it, that were like amplified in like sexual tension at that time. Like very, very risque kind of stuff. Lots of what's the words that I want to use? Like mistresses and home wrecker kind of vibes, and all that kind of stuff was like basically like that's what people wanted to see with a lot of those kind of movies, I guess.
Okay.
So one last thing before we get into it. Bob Macron was the lead special effects artist. He previously worked on Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior, and Beyond Thunderdome, which were both New Zealand films.
Okay.
George Miller, the man who has made, directed, and he wrote most of, but directed all of the Mad Max films, is also a New Zealand native. Bob Macron, though, later went on to work on the first one. You guys would be like, of course he worked on a film called Body Melt.
Yeah.
He was also
Sounds about right.
also one of the lead special effects makeup artists for The Matrix.
Oh, cool.
Oh,
And Queen of the Damned.
Yay! I love that movie.
So Queen of the Damned, Dead Alive, same movie.
Not even close.
wow.
So if you are new to the podcast, Pod of the Dead is a horror film club. We are here to give out homework every week. Sometimes they are films that you desperately did not want to watch. And sometimes they are films that maybe you have seen before. So the whole point of this is if you have not seen the movie, I suggest you go watch it. Like I said, it is a notoriously hard film to find. Peter Jackson is supposed to be doing a 4K restoration of his Splatter trilogy, which I am feverishly waiting for. That being said, it's, unless you're looking to spend $150 for a Blu-ray or like $50 to $70 for a DVD copy,
You can get a DVD on Amazon for $27.
Okay, I guess it's dropped a little bit.
Yes, $27.99. You can buy it directly from Amazon. It's obviously not going to be the best quality. That's what I was bringing up. I looked it up just to make sure see if it was available for anybody. And yeah, you can buy it, and it's unrated, and it'll be sent to you via Amazon.
That's what you want, is the unrated version.
And then the Blu-ray called Braindead is on there. Their version of it is available for $29 on Amazon.
As far as I remember, that is not an American region A, though.
It's region A, B, and C import.
Okay, there you go.
And it's a Blu-ray, and but it is the Braindead title. Yeah. So like I said, and it says imports from Spain. So I don't know all the ins and outs of that, but it is available on Amazon as well.
And I'm over here just kind of looking over my shoulders. Or if need be, and you don't have the money, and it's not streaming anywhere, you can always go the old YouTube route like Tasha did, which they have a super clean 1080 HD cut on there. So I wish we would have had.
I feel like I was doing it that way.
The one that we watched was I own a DVD copy of it, which is like almost a direct film transfer. So like there's even the cigarette marks in the corner where you can see like the film is getting ready to. You need to change it and stuff. So it's like an old DVD copy that I've got. But yeah, so how this works is we give out homework at the end of the episode. That'll be the next movie that we cover on the next episode. If you have not seen Braindead, Dead Alive, and you don't want spoilers, go check it out. Come back and listen to us. If you don't give a shit about spoilers, stick around, because we are going to get into all the gloop and all the splatter and all the wetness that is Peter Jackson's Dead Alive.
If you'd like to be part of our horror film club, make sure to follow us at Instagram, Threads, and Facebook at Pod of the Dead. All of our episodes can be found at podofthedeadorelse.com or wherever you stream music and podcasts. If you have movie recommendations or questions for us, email us at podofthedead666@gmail.com. Don't forget to leave us a 5-star review. Or else.
Yep.
With that being
I
said,
hate all of those words.
with that being said, Tasha, would you like to give me your handwritten 10 out of 10 review?
No. Straight up, no. Okay, here we go. Okay. This film is truly the finest hour of young, aggressive, full speed ahead Peter Jackson.
God damn right.
Yeah.
Check your squeamishness at the door and get ready for proof that splatter can be played for laughs.
Yes.
Not all laughs are splatter-based. The opening scene shows a zookeeper waving a permit to a tribe of hostile natives about to kill him, shouting, "Permit! Permit!" From there, the film descends into an inspired, amused lunacy of splatstick. Look for the cameo of young, thin Peter Jackson as a mortician's assistant. Also look for the minor hilarious characters, the Nazi vet, the idiot football player, and the most famous of all, Father Magruder. He's one of the film's best one-liner.
Yes.
Timothy Balmy is excellent as a neebishly mama's boy who ends up taking on the whole undead world by himself with a couple of mechanical aids. He out-ashes Ash. Like any good zombie film, the end features waves of zombies, but many with unique and twisted personalities of their own. The best is, of course, Zombie Baby. It is shocking yet hilarious to see what Zombie Baby endures and yet survives. Perhaps to live on in the long-awaited sequel.
That would be amazing.
10 stars. 10 stars. 5 out of 5 for blood splats thrown up against the wall during the last half hour.
Yeah.
Yep.
100%.
There you go.
I actually covered the movie pretty well. They did a good overview.
The zombie baby is one of Wesley's favorite things in this movie. When we get into like the actual stuff, we'll talk about what his favorite thing is. But the zombie baby he fucking loved, especially like the scene in the park, is one of his favorite scenes.
So stupid. Anyway, okay. Okay. 1 out of 10.
I don't agree with this.
Here we go.
Yeah.
This is co-written by the Final Girls.
Yeah. I have been a fan of zombie flicks since a very long time. Okay. And I yep, that's how it's written. And I keep searching for zombie movies over the net. So I stumbled across Braindead, saw a rating of 7+, and was willing to watch it. I also never thought that zombie flicks can be bad. I always thought that somehow the movie would be at least a time pass. I was wrong. This was the worst zombie flick ever. Worse than Shaun of the Dead. Half-wit story, half-wit acting, and fully mental gore scenes. I mean, who wrote this crap? Okay, a few scenes were really funny, but why would anyone have zombies at his home and feed them dinner? And how did his mother become so big at the end? I mean, I just want to go back in the past and undo this. These huge nipples from the last scene still haunt me. That's ridiculous, but kind of true. For true zombie flick fans, please skip this. And for those who voted anything more than a 4, please first get an idea of what a zombie movie should be. You can try Dawn of the Dead or Night of the Living Dead. And for even more beginners, just watch Michael Jackson's Thriller videos.
Hold the fucking door. What the fuck?
One last word of advice. Don't watch this movie. Yeah, some things should be buried, like all the corpses of these movies. Oh, all the copies of this movie. So apparently we're not even allowed to have copies of this movie. Sorry. I almost forgot the most memorable moment from this movie. Priest in an English accent while going ballistic on some zombies with his divine intervention, or as we all call it, martial arts. I kick ass for the Lord.
That was a great line.
Yep, that was the end of
so
their review.
So this person does not like Shaun of the Dead either. So what this leads me to believe is that they like zombie films, but not horror comedies.
What they said, right. Living Dead, isn't that supposed to be kind of funny?
No, the Living Dead films are not. No,
I think that's what.
They said Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead. They shat on. Shat on Shaun of the Dead. But like even then, like I don't really understand. Like I don't know. If people's taste is weird. Like it's really strange that like somebody's like I really like zombie films, and then they will give this a 1. Where it's like, I can understand not liking it, but you're giving this a 1 and zombie films are the best. Like, there's a lot of shitty zombie films out there. So,
I guess it's a matter of taste. This could be really shitty, like to that person, but my biggest, I felt like I was watching two different movies in this. Yeah. And then that was one of my biggest gripes, because the first part of this movie was just really not good. Correct. Like, and like, it was just horrible. Like we're getting into it. It's a very slow beginning, other than like you have your like cold open or whatever. It's not really cold open, I guess, but where they're introducing us into the most ridiculous fucking looking monkey bat thing that absolutely is just fucking horrific looking, and not in a good way, in my opinion. And then you're watching like this love story unfold, and it's the most cringy.
Yes.
Like, I can't believe I'm watching this. Can I come back to when the actual action starts? Because it's so bad. Like, Paquita's character in this, like, which we had talked about how she's supposed to be like an opera or soap opera actress, makes sense. But her acting is horrific in this movie, in the sense of, like, I did not like it. It didn't resonate with me. I don't care if she was a soap actress and that was the intention of this film. I did not find this movie funny in any capacity, and I know it was supposed to be funny. It was ridiculous, but it wasn't ridiculous to the level where I was like laughing about it. I was just kind of going, are we really watching this? And but the first part of this movie, that's where I was like, it really did feel like a completely different movie from what you got later on in the film. And it was just not. No.
Yeah, I agree with the fact of it is like two different films, because like when it comes to how I had to rate this movie, I had to split the film in half and rate the first half and rate the second half and then get the average to give it a real rating, because like part of me wants to like just rate it on that second half and forget the first half, but I'm like, well, no, that first half exists. So when we get into that, like I'll bring that more to the forefront. But the production fell in trouble with local council members when pumping the fake blood for the finale into the Hutt River. Residents noticed a red contamination flowing near Avalon Studios where the film was shot, and alerted authorities, fearing that there had been a massacre.
Oh my God.
I mean, it was a lot. I mean, there really is. Like, this movie feels like, to me personally, having watched Evil Dead 2 and then watching this, it legitimately is like they took part of Evil Dead 2 and they were like, we're going to take a lot of the acting and a lot of the points from this, and we're just going to try to do it a little bit differently, because we still have a mom in both of them that are very grotesque. We still have a lot of like interesting things like that where they kind of overlap in that sense, like body parts still being alive after they are supposedly severed. You have that aspect. You have like the difference is like the Necronomicon thing is not the same. Like our Necronomicon versus it being a fucking bat. Yeah, that's the biggest difference.
Or Sumerian rat monkey.
That, yeah. But then you have like the gore is very similar, other than this has just more. And then, but like it, and they both have creature features. The mom is very much a forefront in both of the movies. And in this one, we've got a guy who uses a fucking lawnmower.
Goddamn
that
right.
Instead of a sawed-off shotgun and a fucking chainsaw. Like, that's the difference, like, in this movie. And like, it just felt like, because that movie, came out in like the early or mid 80s?
So
Evil Dead 2 did?
Evil Dead 2 came out in 1987, so it would have been 5 years prior to this. And like I was talking about, like that the triple feature, it's literally Reanimator's 85, Evil Dead 2 is 87, and then this is 92. So it's like taking all of that, stewing it a little bit over the years, and then pumping this out.
Yeah, I mean, the Reanimator thing is like the same concept from this is like where they're injecting things, but he's injecting fucking sedatives into these zombies in this movie versus like trying to reanimate their bodies.
Oh no, he accidentally injects them with animal stimulant, which explains why Mom's big titties come out later on.
Yeah. I guess because they still put the stimulant in all the other ones too, and they didn't turn into her.
Yeah, but they launched out, and she's Mama zombie. She's the one that got bit.
She's the first.
Are we trying to find logic in this?
I think so.
Absolutely.
So but that's where I kind of had a hard time with it, because I'm like comparing the movies and kind of going, well, I feel like they stole this idea. I'm not saying stealing, because like you're just adopting it or whatever, but if I'm going to watch a movie and I actually liked it, and then I'm watching another movie that it just isn't holding up to the same standards that I view it as, and gore and blood doesn't bother me, so it was just kind of like, wow, we have an entire literal floor flooding with blood as he's chopping bodies apart with a fucking... he strapped it to his body. Like, it was so weird. And it was like this whole like getting through the house and surviving mode. Like, that was cool to watch, but it was just so ridiculous.
So during that lawnmower scene that you're talking about, the lawnmower itself was pumping 5 gallons per second. That's how much blood was spraying out of that thing per second. It's like 5 gallons. They said that it ran through 200 liters in a minute. So
Jesus. Yeah. I mean, I believe it, because it was crazy.
Yes.
That part of the scene was, it was interesting.
Yeah. So like when you're talking about like comparing or whatever, what this feels like to me is it's not so much like you were very like you didn't want to say stealing or anything like that.
Yeah. I don't think that's necessarily stealing, but it's,
this definitely, you can see where Peter Jackson had to have loved those films in the past, and was like, I want to do what they did, and it's very much in that splatter kind of way, where it's like, I don't want to make what they made. I want to make it grosser. I want to make it more over the top. I want to make it more ridiculous. And this is like literally the ceiling. It is hit the ceiling essentially, because like. And I'm only using these same 3 because, but it's like Reanimator, like you've got like the end scene with like the intestines and all that stuff, which you get again in this. And Evil Dead 2, you've got like severed bits, like being alive and all sorts of craziness, and like just the hordes and like blood literally bursting through windows and shit like that. And you can see Peter Jackson seeing that and being like, I like those things. How can I make it messier? Well, Ash has a chainsaw. What else is a bladed instrument? A fucking mower. Yeah, that would be rad. And it is so insane. Like, and it's used in so many different ways too. Just the mower, we'll say, he's got it strapped to his body, literally walking through them. You're watching their arms get chopped off and stuff. And then it gets to the point where the punk guy that is like attacking him gets thrown onto it while it's upside down, and it just mows him down into it as you're watching the blood go everywhere. And it's just, it's just beautiful. We
have that in like a blender scene that does similar things, and like it was really crazy. And then it's just a lot of a film, like realistically, because like I said,
like the juicer thing where the guys,
that's what I meant.
Like,
yes,
that is
shit coming out of his
literally
mouth.
is the grossest.
Head hole.
Yeah, where he's getting ran through the the clothes dryer thing. Where you run clothes through. Yeah, that is the grossest scene to me, because it's just like mashed up hot dog coming out. But you also got the gnome as the head for that zombie going around and everything, right?
I love gnomes, but that was dumb.
There are a lot of really like it or not, right? Very interesting set pieces. So like, or like kills, right? So like lawnmower, never seen that before, right? Blender, never seen that before. The head sliding around and it's still alive and the camera is still on it the whole time. Genius. The one zombie getting
the light.
Yep, smashed into the light socket with her.
That was fucking brilliant,
that is
honestly.
So cool.
It was so good. That was really good. Like the creature design in this, in the sense of like how much they had to do, like thought process wise, to like, well, we're going to end person this way. We're going to do this to this person. Like that's a lot of like moving parts in order to film it and to make it successful. And I do think that those pieces are successful. I actually don't feel like the scene with the blades with the mower was very successful for me, other than the fact it was just gratuitous. Like I like the woman, very successful. The baby I could do without. I didn't find that funny or entertaining in any capacity.
The only thing about the baby that drives me nuts is the laugh. Like that's annoying.
Yeah.
Everything else about it though, I find fucking hilarious. Like Wes and I were laughing. Like with the dude just beating the shit out of this zombie baby. It's so absurd. And yeah, I'm there for it.
Can we but let's step back to like, because we're talking about like the end scenes, and when we don't need to talk necessarily about the beginning because it's so fucking dry and boring with so many cringy pieces. It's ridiculous. Right. And the mom is just so overbearing and annoying, in my opinion. But then when you get further into the movie, after she's been bitten and she starts doing all this, she literally does eat this girl's fucking dog. That's the reason why it's named after it. She's like, but you ate my dog. And then she starts pulling the fur out of her throat and it's just coming in this long string. And Tasha's probably over here like, I can't watch this shit.
Literally looks like she's holding back vomit.
There were so many scenes. Like I would see the initial like gross and then just look away. Like I don't need to see more of this. I get to hear it and that's bad enough.
Yeah.
So I would say, honestly, I watched probably watched eyes on screen 50% of this movie because you don't need to see everything.
Oh, yes, you do.
Did you
You guys are talking about like, oh, that was such a cool kill and this was so awesomely done. I'm like, cool, but I'm fine not seeing it. Like,
yeah. So did you watch enough where this was actually really gross, like in the sense of just making me get a little bit of throw up in the throat when the mom is at the table, the son is at the table, and they have these people from some place visiting, and she has the sore on her arm that explodes and puts blood into his custard, and he eats it, and then
she eats her
ear. Okay, so you did see that.
So it's like just like how you're describing it, where I say stop is when I'm looking off doing something else, and then the sounds kind of dissipate, and then I look back until the next disgusting thing.
Did you see her spit out her earring out of her mouth?
I did not.
Okay, you missed that part. So she eats her ear and then she spits her earring out. And I was like, realistically, as much as I did not like this movie as a whole, that is very smart writing. Okay, it's very smart.
And then later on, when all the zombies are eating, and like one of them can't get it through his mouth, so it's like feeding it.
Oh yeah,
through the hole in the throat. That was so good.
Wesley literally noted that as one of his favorite scenes when he's like, he's like feeding the lady, her head's flopped back and feeding it down her throat.
Yeah. Well, the thing about
like
this
slop.
It is. Well, the worst part of this movie,
Tasha is having a fucking breakdown right now.
Yeah, I know.
She is so beside herself.
So we have all of these people getting turned, right? And we have our four main people who are turned. We have our mom, right? So then we have is it like a housekeeper or somebody, it's the nurse. The nurse gets turned. Hers is so good. Her head is barely attached to her skull or to her body, and it just keeps flipping back, and you get to see the inside of her throat, and I'm like, or her neck, and I'm like, that is so good. Like the design of all of that is from like a perspective of just really enjoying creature creations. That is so good. And like, I wish they would have spent more time with just the four, not the mom even, because I thought hers was the least inventive and exciting to watch. I thought the other three were. And then my favorite scene, and we were talking about this earlier, after we watched the movie, was the preacher, because he's like in this graveyard and he's like, I kick ass for the Lord or kick ass for Jesus or whatever he said. And I was like, yes. And he's literally karate fighting these motherfuckers in the freaking graveyard. And I was like, this is so good. And like, and it's so like over the top, campy, really like ridiculousness. But I was like, yeah, you do it. And then he like obviously gets bitten or whatever happens to him. I can't remember. And then he turns into one. And I loved his because like him and the nurse have like this weird love affair. And so like they're sucking face at this table, and she literally eats his lips off his face. And
because
I was like,
it gets stuck to her when he gets pulled away.
And she eats it And I'm like, this is so good. Like, they're doing it on a table. And then that's how we end up with a zombie baby. Like, all of that is so over the top and ridiculous. I just wish that the movie was a lot more about them, because we only get that in like really small like blips, and I thought all of that was far more interesting and entertaining than watching a guy trying to be Ash but not being Bruce Campbell.
Yeah.
Let's just be honest. Like his character, we're talking about acting abilities and like believability and enjoying. He is not even in the same ballpark to me. And like I think he tried. He was mildly
I think he did
successful.
A serviceable job. He was not Paquita.
Yeah, exactly. But he's also not Bruce Campbell, and like this is crazy.
That goes to show like Bruce Campbell's prowess as that character. That like not everybody could be that. Like I mean, this guy is attempting to be that. What's his name? Timothy Balm, or Balame, is attempting to kind of, but he's a lot more of a mama's boy, like beaten down, where Ash isn't. I think the comparison for Ash and Lionel is literally just chainsaw and lawnmower and like dealing with zombies. Because like if you're gonna have that pantheon of people, then you would put Shaun from Shaun of the Dead in that as well, and just like your unexpected hero male protagonist fighting against the zombie horde and stuff. Yeah. And in that, like Lionel is definitely not in my top 3 of those, but the scenes that he's dealing with and like just the outlandishness of having to deal with this stuff, I do love. So Tasha, at what point in watching this film did you go, I don't want to finish this? But you still did, correct? What
I did. I finished it.
Where was the point that you were just like, can I fucking not?
Honestly, it was when he's taping the mom's ripped cheek.
That early?
That's early on.
That early.
Oh my God. Was it because of the acting or just the...
A lot of it was the quality of the acting.
I'm talking about the gore, though. At what point did you just go like, dude, like this is too much?
That was not soon after with the mom eating her ear.
Okay.
Yeah, like it was pretty early on of I don't want to do this anymore. What did I get myself in? Because I knew, seeing enough movies like this, I knew this is tame in comparison to where it's going.
Because you see it, and then you see the timestamp, you go, uh-oh.
That's exactly what I did. I was like, I'm a half an hour in. What's gonna happen?
Yeah.
So it was very early on.
Yeah, I think the least successful part of this movie, other than the beginning, was the end. I think like the middle parts were decent.
It kind of jumps the shark a little bit.
It does.
Oh,
You had mentioned and when we were watching this, and it's very true. So when we watched, the dogs are going crazy. The Killer Clowns from Outer Space. At the end when they have the giant guy come out and like it's like ta-da, this is the big bad. The mama was kind of like that in this, and then we have like these really giant ass cheeks coming out on the roof, and then really big grotesque looking titties, and then we've got a belly that opens up and tries to swallow her child back into her womb. Like it was very I didn't feel like it was necessary. Yeah, and it was just kind of stupid. Like I didn't go, man, this was really cool, smart, blah blah blah. Like I can't imagine how much work went into actually making
100%.
that costume, but like or the set piece. But Jesus, like that's a lot of work. But at the same time, you could have ended it in a different way and not had to put all that time and effort into it, and it would have been more. The ending would have been more successful. Not that the movie was great. I'm just saying like that piece you could have ended it in a different way and it would have been better.
Yeah, like
we could have stopped with the house catching on fire and like not even have mom coming out of the ground.
Correct. I 100% agree with that. Like not turning her into a Tyrannosaurus mother kind of thing. Yep. Like as cool as it looks, like it does, it's crazy and like the face like slides off and everything. It's like, oh, that's cool. Not necessary, because everything else that's happening, with like the really skeezy uncle, like fucking flying around, chopping things up and everything and getting kicked in the nuts 5 times in this film. It's just
deservedly. Yeah.
And I don't know how I missed this. I've seen this film multiple times, and I don't know how I didn't realize that this movie is set in 1957, which, like, when Vera is buried, you see it on her tombstone. And I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense with like how everyone's dressed and everything. Like, it just kind of slipped by. And I guess I was just like, well, maybe early 90s New Zealand was really big into like swing music and stuff, because there was that swing revival that happened in the 90s. So like all the horned rimmed glasses and stuff like that, I was just kind of like, oh, okay. And then to see that
the pompadour haircuts and all that stuff.
I just thought it was like, you know, like culture shock in a sense, right? But no, it's supposed to be the 50s and everything, and that's where you get like your Nazi veterinarian that's like literally like basically like, no, I wasn't there, like everything was taken from us and all this stuff, and then you see like the swastika under his fucking thing. It's just like, oh my god, like that is a bad taste joke. Like that is, you know, like it is what it is. You could not do that now. Like like it's one of those things where like Blazing Saddles could not be made now, right? Like that is such a crass film. I have a loss of words of what exactly to say. I still do love that film, but you cannot make that now. Like there is no fucking way. So this movie is definitely a product of its time in a way. But yeah, it's a pure fever dream. I don't know of many other films that are so absurd and outlandish as this one, and I'm glad that we actually got to cover it. Not because I wanted to force you girls into watching it or anything.
He's lying.
No,
that's not true. You wanted us to see the grotesqueness and all the loveliness.
I warned you guys multiple times.
I know.
Like, this is on us, honestly. It does. As like so many times through this, I was like, I did this to myself. We had an out.
Yeah.
Because
all we had to do was Google the fucking movie.
I know.
Because this is why I'm glad that we got to do it, is because this isn't a horror history podcast. It's a movie club. It's a film club. And some of these films, some people have missed out on and everything. I do. You guys are going to be like, shut the fuck up. I do believe that this is a very important film in the horror landscape, because without this movie and stuff, you don't get Peter Jackson. You don't get him. Like, this is the film that was like his big break onto the scene and stuff. The other two ones were a lot smaller funded and everything. This one actually got more people talking about him. He then went on to make The Frighteners, which has Michael J. Fox, which is the next movie he got to make. After that, you start seeing him start working on his love projects, which are The Lord of the Rings and King Kong and stuff like that. So without 300 gallons of blood being shot out of the bottom of a mower, you do not get Lord of the Rings. I rest my case.
Okay, I can see it from that perspective. It doesn't mean I like the film.
No, I'm just...
and I look at it differently than Tasha. Tasha is being too bloody and grotesque. To me, it wasn't. It was still bloody, but it didn't bother me.
So this wasn't bloody enough?
It was bloody. It was bloody. But it didn't bother me. Like, it's not like I wasn't going, oh, that's so gross. Oh, that bothers me. Oh, that makes me want to, it didn't do that to me. And I know it, like, Nick's over here laughing as we're watching the movie. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't find any of this funny. Like, I'm just like, oh, I can appreciate the quality of the set pieces, and I can appreciate the what they're trying to attempt and what they're doing, but it doesn't give me the same thing where I have to look away, because I'm just like, that's fine. Like, it's a movie.
Gotcha.
Throw more blood on there. It's not going to change anything for me. So I think that's the difference in, like, as I know you have a hard time watching, like, the graphicness of it, and that just doesn't really affect me, I guess.
Steph, you said that this movie wasn't bloody enough. So for our next date night, we're going to be watching the German splatter film by Olaf Ittenbach, The Burning Moon.
Burning Moon.
Which is horrific. It is so disgusting. And of course I own it. But
Yeah,
no, I'm not going to make you watch that. It's
good.
really fucked up.
That's good.
But if anybody watched this and wants to see a super gory flick that is low budget, but is also like not for laughs, check out Olaf Ittenbach's The Burning Moon. It's kind of like an anthology. It's 2 films like in a film.
Okay.
But it's horrific.
Yeah.
So I want to ask this, and I know that Tasha was watching most of the film while staring at her wall, but what would you say is, I don't want to say favorite, this goes to both of you girls. What do you think was the most original, like in your head, like set piece, splatter scene, whatever, like that you saw that you were just like, I have never in a million years, like, you know, what sticks out?
I have one.
Go ahead.
Do you want me to go first, Tasha? Okay. So in terms of like creativity wise, that was just a little over the top that I found actually very entertaining. And one of the better scenes in the movie was the bathroom scene where he goes upstairs and there's this guy that's chasing him down, and our main character, and he like traps, because half of his body's gone. And so he like climbs in the tub, tries to hurt him or whatever. I can't remember the exact layout of how it works, but he as he's trying to get him in the bathroom, all of his intestines and his body parts fall out onto the floor, and then he traps him underneath the toilet seat in the toilet bowl because he's only half of a body. I thought that was extremely unique and extremely successful in the sense of what they were trying to create. And then it gets a little more outlandish as like his body parts then turn into its own character.
Yes.
And I actually thought that was really kind of cute.
That was Wesley's favorite character, was the body,
too.
the organs with like the
organs
weird face,
crawling up.
It's kind of farting and stuff.
Yeah. Oh, it was so ridiculous, but it was really successful in the sense it was like its own entity. And I liked that because it was just something you don't see every day. Kind of like the hand in Evil Dead 2 when it's like you like the hand because it's got its own personality. Yeah. It's very much the same way in this case for me. And I just found it really kind of endearing in a weird, fucked up way. And so that was the neat part of it. And then it gets a little too outlandish, and like it's like holding onto its leg, trying to draw him back into the ceiling at one point, and like all this stupid shit. But at the same time, I liked that it was a unique character. So organs, who would have thought?
Is that the same guy who has just the bones of his legs exposed, where his top half is still his top half, but then his legs are just bones?
That's a different person.
I thought that if we have to go with creativity and uniqueness, that one sticks out the most.
Where the guy's getting pulled through the windows and the zombies literally pull the meat off of his legs.
Yeah, that was disgusting. But I remember him like still having, instead of it just being like half a body, he still has like his
bones.
leg bones attached.
Yeah.
Nice.
My favorite scene it's definitely not crazy, but I liked when all of the, like at the very beginning, where all of the zombies are sitting around eating dinner, like that first time where you see just like the normalcy of dinner. that was the one time that I chuckled.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you girls want to get...
What about you,
Oh,
Nick?
me? Let's see here. God, there's so many. Realistically, I think one of my favorite scenes in the movie is what I kind of mentioned earlier, where the head is sliding around and like the camera is like literally attached to it. So it's looking around. Like, I don't know how they did that. It's insane. Like, I don't know how they managed to make him. I'd have to watch some sort of special features thing, because the other stuff, like, I can wrap my head, like even like the blender scenes, like, okay, well, he's actually under it, and you know his head's gonna blend, and his head's gonna go down. But I don't really know how they had this person's face sliding around, and it looks great. Like, it looks.
But it's also missing like half its mandible, right? No, so it's missing the bottom half. So it's literally just its lips, like top lips, and then the rest of its head.
Like his nose up, and it's just like, how the fuck did they do that? Like, that is the scene that like sticks out to me. Not only the camera angle and how it's shot, because it is very Sam Raimi-esque, like Evil Dead, like how it's just like whoop, whoop, like how it's shooting around and everything. But then like how it's done, I'm like, what the fuck? So I'm gonna actually have to look that up. But that's probably like the standout scene for me. There's obviously like the lawnmower scenes, multiple. There's all sorts of shit when he's in the bathtub and the punk guy, like the top half is getting him. This is the grossest one to me. You said it's your favorite. He's slamming the body and the organs are falling out of him. That part's pretty fucking gross. Like that's the scene that's like, ugh, like stomach churning because it's the plopping of the organs. But yeah.
I love that scene. So good.
I don't remember that scene. I feel like at that part I was just so inundated
You're
with
just burnt out.
What the fuck is exactly. And that's like by the end with the mother, I was just like, Jesus Christ, now what?
Yeah.
There's more. Like I thought this movie was gonna end 15 minutes ago. Like what else could you do?
Yeah.
I know.
And then stuff catches on fire. And then that zombie gets like the gas explosion. And then mom is just like, this is so much, so much.
Yes.
All right, you girls want to get into our reviews?
Yep.
All right.
Let's do it.
Sure.
I'm going to have you girls go first. So Tasha, Tasha, let's hear it.
Yep.
All right. I'm just going to make it short and sweet. 2 points for creativity.
Yeah.
And that's my rating.
Oh my God.
Okay.
2? Well,
I never plan on watching this again.
I'm trying to remember. You gave Buffy a 1, right? Okay,
Yes.
we're good then. I was just making sure that you rated this higher than Buffy. That's all. That's a win. It's a fucking win, everybody. The crowd goes wild.
Man, I watched more of Buffy than I did of this movie.
Yeah, sorry.
And it wasn't like I was out doing stuff. Like I couldn't physically bring myself to continue to endure the scenes.
Yeah, it is. It is gross.
Yep.
All right, Steph, what you got?
Okay. Well, when we first started this movie, I was like, this movie's a 100%. And it was because of how horrible the beginning of this movie is. I'm sorry. The beginning of this movie is terrible. If you nix and you want to watch the second half of the movie is so much better. And you get past all of that just horrible acting. And I mean, it gets much better in the acting department, but like it past all of the romancy shit and him hiding behind a fucking car and like all this ridiculousness, like stuff that just was unnecessary, or watching all these train cars go by like 5 different times trying to set the scene of the town that they live in, which we do not give a flying fuck about. Okay,
it's not why we're watching the movie.
No,
exactly.
Watching the
movie for good acting.
I wonder though, like real quick, not to cut you off, but like you're talking about like showing the town and all that. I wonder if any of that was like in like if like the New Zealand like what is it called? The New Zealand Film Commission. If they were like, you gotta kind of, really, and he's like, well, we'll just front load it.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense is that's what they did. And that's basically what the film is. It's like and then we have this weird grandma and like, she's like, you're going to fall in love and then you're going to have this thing. It's going to keep it like all this stuff. That's how we find out who she's going to end up with, and it's destined and they're going to be together forever. And like, it's this weird, like soap opera feel. And so I hated all of that. Like, there's no, like, if I could have gave this movie a 0 in the beginning, I would give it a 0. It's terrible. And it's just absolutely horrible. And then once you get into the scenes a little bit further after mom gets turned, and because she's the least entertaining one out of all of the zombies, after we get a little bit further into that and we get, our preacher turned and we have like our rock guy or whatever,
punk guy.
The guy and the punk guy, that's okay. Yeah. Him and the nurse and all those things. That's when stuff starts getting entertaining, but you're like 30, 40 minutes into the movie by this time. And it's just like dragging on. So I would say the first half of the movie is a 0. Okay. The second half of the movie is like a 5. So I'm going to give it a 3 because if I could realistically, I would watch it again only if I could skip the entire first half of the movie.
Just start at the graveyard.
Yeah, I know. Just fast forward to like when we start changing everybody and we get a little more entertaining, and then that's good. And honestly, if they didn't have that and it was acted better and they kept it up like they did, I would have seen rating this movie even higher. But you can't get past that. Like, to me personally, I just can't. So that's where I'm gonna give it a 3.
Yeah.
So
I would like to start this with, you're wrong. Both of you are wrong.
Nope.
This movie is amazing. But this is also,
We watched the same movie.
yeah, this is also coming from a person that how many times on this podcast have I said practical effects and gloopy, right? Those are my things. This movie is not Evil Dead 2, which I believe I gave a 10, right?
Yeah, that movie's way better.
This movie is not Reanimator, which I believe I gave an 8.
Yep.
This is Dead Alive. And I agree with the fact that the beginning half or so is bad. Like legit bad. That being said, once we get to eating the dog and shit on, this movie makes me laugh unstoppably through the entire thing. You can ask Steph. I was chuckling nonstop at the entirety from that point forward. Even the jumping of the shark and the grotesque mom monster. As much as I'm not a big fan of it as a film, I think it would be better without it. The outlandishness of it makes me laugh. All that being said, I'm giving this movie a 7 out of 10.
So you like the other movies better,
Correct.
but not
Correct.
that much better.
Yes,
okay.
I'm
kind of surprised you didn't rate it the same as like Reanimator as much as you like it.
I do. The big reason, if that beginning was not as a fucking drag, it would be in that Reanimator category and stuff. Reanimator for me is enjoyable from beginning to end. This one, I 100% agree. It's like, we'll just fast forward through all this bullshit and then go. Because of that, I'm going to knock it down a little bit. But yeah, like I'm very comfortable with saying a 7. Maybe even agreeing with IMDb with the 7.5. But I think that like that beginning and then the mom monster at the end, as cool as it looks, by the time you get to it, it's not necessary. So 7 it gets.
Yeah. Okay. Do you think that they put the mom monster in there because, like in Evil Dead 2, they had a tree monster?
Could be.
And so, like, this was their.
They had budget.
Like,
they had
their way of creating that.
They had budget to spare because when the film was initially done, they still had like $45,000, and that's when he ended up making the park scene where Lionel and the baby go to the park, which Peter Jackson then goes on to say is his favorite scene in the movie. So Wesley and Peter Jackson have the same taste in this movie.
Yeah, that's true. He really did like this movie, so
it gives us a 33%.
Okay,
yay!
So you're more than likely not gonna like this movie.
No,
but it's not in the Hall of Shame. This movie does have its crowd.
Yeah, I can see that. Like you have to like a specific kind of movie.
This is not the movie that I would say. You like horror films? Well, you gotta watch Dead Alive. I would never do that, right? But if somebody was, if somebody was like, I love Evil Dead, and, or Reanimator, they more than likely have seen Dead Alive. But that's where I'd be like, oh, you like that gloopy practical effects, campiness. There's nothing gloopier. There's nothing campier than Dead Alive. So mileage may vary.
That's a good question. So that's a good question. So if we were talking to somebody and they were not very versed in horror movies, what would be the 3 movies that you would be like, hey, I think you should see these movies because it would give you a good taste of horror movies as a whole, and it might actually be something you would also enjoy.
Like if we're talking like, are we taking like from the 80s on, or are we just trying to keep it like
any movie that you think that people,
because it's really
nowadays would be like, so if you had, we'll set the scene up to age group. So say a
21-year-old.
Yeah. So somebody in their early 20s comes and says, hey, I don't have a lot of, experience in horror movies. What would you suggest I watch?
Evil Dead 2.
What would you suggest?
Evil Dead 2 would definitely be on that list. I would also probably put, I'm trying to keep my like legitimate, like my bias out of it. because like part of me wants to go like, oh, The Thing, and like that. No, I wouldn't do that. But I would say Evil Dead 2 definitely would be up there. I would say Scream would be one that you'd have to check out, and then something a little more recent. Let me think here. What's more recent that, I mean, realistically, and it's not even like a top contender for me, like it's not even in my top like probably 50 fucking horror films, 100 horror films, whatever. I would say like The Conjuring or something to that degree, that it's like it's more recent, it does what it does well. That's just not my style. But like, yeah, if I had to say 3 films to be like, this is horror over the times, I'd give you Evil Dead 2 as the 80s, I'd give you Scream as the 90s, and I would give you The Conjuring as the 2000s. And it's like, there you go. And then if they want something like, well, I just want something really new, I would tell them to go listen to the podcast. We've covered quite a bit of them.
Yeah, exactly. It's true. All right, Tasha, what do you got? What would you suggest to people to watch?
I was kind of in the same, I wouldn't say your first choice, but definitely Scream. I think that's a really good slasher. This is where it gets tricky, though. Like, I think The Strangers could be in there, too, with Scream. So
that's why we double featured
one of those two. Yeah, they definitely fill that. And then I was thinking, like, the new Candyman.
Okay.
Has a different feel, but it's still kind of like a quintessential horror movie. Some type of zombie movie, I think, would be a good, but I can't think of one right off the top of my head that would be not too niche.
The Dawn of the Dead remake that came out in 2003, which we'll be covering in a few months. It's directed by Zack Snyder and stuff, is a really good one to put in there if you're looking for a zombie film and stuff. And it's not shitting on the original. That's not what I'm saying. But it's a 70s film. It's a 70s zombie film. And I do like it, right? But like, to get somebody more interested that's not familiar with the horror films, it's kind of like you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot to say, well, you've got to watch The Exorcist, The Omen, Dawn of the Dead. And it's,
why not like Train to Busan? That would be
a really good one.
Zombie good film.
I was thinking that one, but that one is so I don't know. That one is really, really dark, where like I feel at least there's a lot more going on aside from it just being a zombie movie.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, it's true.
What do you got, Steph?
Okay, this one's really hard for me. I ask the questions and I'm always terrible at like following up my own answers. This is like one of my, and Nick is always like, if you're going to ask, you have to freaking answer. I'm like, I know, Jesus, put me on the spot, even though I'm the one asking.
You put yourself on the spot.
I know that. I 100%, when we were talking about this, the first movie that came to my head was Scream. Only because I'm like, that movie is so accessible across pretty much anybody. Right. It is a slasher film technically, but like it's so good, and like it makes fun of itself, and it's so accessible for anybody, and like it's definitely a baby put your toes in the deep end of horror and like enjoy it and have fun, and it's funny, and it's just really, I just really like that movie. And I don't know if it's just because we're all a product of the 90s, you know, where that's where we grew up, and that's why the nostalgia is there, but I completely think that it's better than going and being like, watch Halloween, watch Jason, you know, those kind of movies.
Whoa, you're talking to my boy Jason all wrong here. Jason goes to space. He goes to Manhattan. Come on. He's a well-traveled man.
So does Vin Diesel in the Fast and the Furious movies.
Hey, stop it.
I know. And then just because I always recommend this movie to fucking everybody, I don't care if you would like it or not. I do think it's just too fucking adorable not to recognize it. Can you guess what I'm going to say?
I have no idea.
Little Monsters?
No. Trick or Treat. Oh. I think Trick or Treat is a perfect movie for people to watch. It gets you, if you're going to watch a movie around Halloween and you just want to get in the mood and you're not used to horror movies, that's the perfect movie to watch. I fucking love that movie. So much. I can watch it over and over and over again. So, and then for like, and I know Nick's definitely not going to agree with this one. Tasha might. I think Bird Box is a great one too.
God, no. Jesus Christ.
It's a great movie. I don't think it's a great entry-level horror.
Is it too dark? Because it's it's too depressing.
That's never the
It's
thing.
too depressing.
That's never the thing to me when you guys are like, oh, it's just too dark. It's like, well, it's horror. It's supposed to be dark and all this stuff.
Yeah.
I just think you would show something like, this is a perfect representation of horror. And they'd go like, all horror films suck then.
No. And then another one I thought about, because it's so like low key horror, would be like The Menu, because like if you are kind of, I think you have to have the mindset of it being more cerebral though. So you have to like understand that. But I do think if you're used to watching movies that are like in that realm and then you want that horror aspect to it, it would be really good. But I definitely think Scream and Trick or Treat are definitely my top two. But the third one's really hard because I do think Bird Box is a great one.
I know of one that
I do
you would
think
put
like
up there.
What?
I thought of a third
You
too.
would probably put Cabin in the Woods.
That's good if you want a horror comedy. Yeah, I do. I think that one's really funny, and it's definitely. I did, and it's really funny, and that's weird because Trick or Treat and Scream and that they're all funny in their own ways. So yeah, maybe that one I did really like, but I've only seen that once. But I did really like it. For people who are like really into horror, obviously you literally recommend every single A24 horror film we've watched, probably, because they are all so good for the most part.
I would say if you really like horror, like horror films and you haven't seen The Void, you got to watch The Void.
Yeah, that was really good too. I like the creature features in that a lot.
My third is definitely, I've realized, the Amityville Horror with Ryan Reynolds.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Right on.
I haven't seen that in forever. It was really good when I saw it a bajillion years ago. I do agree about The Conjuring too, because I do think that it's a good entry level like possession film. But and I really liked it, so I thought it was entertaining.
I measure a lot of that like kind of stuff off of Wesley. Like Wes is like my ride or die horror guy, and I'm always like, so what do you like? What are you liking and stuff? And films like Insidious, he fucking loves the Insidious movies. He liked The Conjuring. Yeah, he liked Talk to Me. Like that one like creeped the fuck out of him, but he was like, this was really good. So he's actually the reason I went and saw it in theaters. So like he's always bringing shit to the table. But yeah,
that's true.
We'd love to hear.
Steph, have you? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Steph, have you rated anything a 10 yet?
No.
No.
I don't really like. It's hard for me. I don't even rate books very often. A 5-star, like, they're only out of 5. I rarely even do that. So I don't even know if I've given anything a 9. I don't think
so. But you could give Dead Alive a 10. It would be okay. We would not hold it against you.
No,
the reason I ask was I want to go back and see what your highest rated movie is, because mine, I have a 10 for Midsummer. Nick has a 10 for Evil Dead.
So
I think I've got a 10 for two films. The differences. I think I've given.
Yeah, maybe today, since I don't have a lot of stuff to do for work, I think I'm going to go into all of our podcast stuff and try to pull all of our numbers out and put it on this spreadsheet. I already started. I just haven't finished it yet. So I can get all of our ratings. And then once I can share it to you, and then you can see like all of the differences between us.
I'm
curious, maybe they'll have a graph or something. I can be nerded out and make something. I don't know. I know.
I'm going to let the listeners in on a little like behind the scenes thing here, because I'm going to bring. I've talked to Steph about this, but I haven't got to talk to you about this, Tasha. So, talking about how this is a movie club and not a film history class, there are certain what's the word, IPs, intellectual characters, whatever, that I would like to cover, but I don't want to feel the need that's like, well, we got to watch Nightmare on Elm Street 1, you know? So what is going to happen in the future? There will be a time where we are going to cover a Nightmare on Elm Street film, and I'm going to leave it up to you girls to talk amongst yourselves to figure out which one we're watching. You just go through, read the synopsis, whatever, of all of them, you bring it to the table, and that's how we'll cover those, because I don't want to have to cover everything. Like, I don't want to have to cover 4 films to get to a 5th film that's the good film or whatever. Yeah. So kind of that stuff, like your Texas Chainsaw Massacres, your Friday the 13th, all that kind of stuff, right? There's so many. Like Amityville Horror is a prime example. It's like, do you cover the first one, the original one that came out in the 70s, just so you can go? No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to leave that kind of up to you girls. Like, what is the more interesting version to you? Like, what's the more palatable version? So you can be like, oh, you know, like, prime example, Amityville, they had the original one, they did a few others throughout the years and stuff, and then the Ryan Reynolds one came out in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
you know what? We're going to watch that one. Why? Because that's what we're doing. So I wanted to kind of bring that up, leaving it up to you guys out there in the world. If you do want us to watch a very specific one, make sure to email us at podofthedead666@gmail.com. Any sort of films that you want us to watch, the only criteria is that you yourself have watched this film. Whether you love it or hate it, the only criteria is that you had to have watched it to send it to us. Because if we have to sit through so much garbage, Tasha right now had to do this.
I thought you were saying I'm making you sit through garbage.
No. You actually had really good suggestions,
Yes.
so no.
Yeah, like so far you guys have done pretty well. There's only been a couple films that like I wanted to pull my hair out at, but like that's going to happen. Like you're not gonna like that's the thing that's great about horror is like there's something for everyone for the most part. Like you're going to like something. I don't believe the whole thing of I don't like horror films because that's such a blanketed statement. Prime example is Maya used to be like that. And then she started figuring out some things and being like, you know what? I actually like this kind of horror, or I like that kind of horror. And it's like, there you go. So.
Yeah. Since we're talking about like horror movies being really gloopy and gross, I was hoping this movie would fit into it. I don't know if it really will because I just looked it up and it's not classified as horror, but, is Starship Troopers. That movie is so gloopy and gross.
It is gloopy. It's not a horror film. It's a sci-fi like satire.
It's a sci-fi. Yeah, it's a sci-fi movie, but it is a horror movie, like in the sense of like adjacent because it's aliens and all that stuff. But it always kind of like freaked me out because it like sucks brains out and stuff. So, but that movie is really graphic in that sense. I really like that movie. It's so cheap.
That's one of Caleb's favorite films is Starship Troopers.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But have you seen that, Tasha?
No.
Okay. I was like, I wondered if she'd seen it. It has Neil Patrick Harris in it. It's got a lot of like really big actors in it. But it's so fucking over the top. But yeah, it is science fiction. But it is, I still kind of look at it as horror or horror adjacent because of what
I would compare it to Aliens, which is like the action movie, but with Alien, that's similar. The only difference is like Starship Troopers is definitely like over the top, like pro-military kind of stuff, but it's as a satire. It's making fun of that and everything. But
it is. It's so funny and so fucking disgusting. So good.
Well, real quick, before we give out homework, try and make it short and sweet. We are running pretty long on time today.
It's okay. We're having fun.
I know. I'm not yucking anybody's yum. You girls have anything that you want to champion?
I have a small thing.
Okay.
All of the finals are happening right now. So Wyatt's super into hockey. So the Stanley Cup is starting.
Who's his team?
Yesterday, the Edmonton Oilers.
Okay.
I'm a Sharks fan over here.
I kept telling him, I was like, dude, do you realize that there's a team that's a shark? And he goes, yeah, it's cool. Like, okay, fine, whatever. Thought you'd totally be into that. But no, he's an Oilers fan, and they're in the Stanley Cup.
Cool.
We have the French Open. The finals were this morning. I was watching that before I sat down
French
here.
Open as in tennis?
Yeah, as in tennis.
Okay.
So the finals were this morning. And then we have the NBA finals are in their second game tonight. So
dang, there was a lot.
Go Celtics.
Okay. Okay. I don't know if I have anything like necessarily this week. Sorry, no tentacles, but I know. I am going to kind of reiterate something. It is horror-esque. It definitely is. It just came back out with season 2. I haven't started season 2 yet, but I fucking love season 1. So Interview with the Vampire. I might have already talked about this before, but it's a TV show that they came out with based on Anne Rice's books. And it's after the original Interview with the Vampire. So it's like taking place, like they come back to the guy that's interviewing them, like they do in the movie or in the books. I don't know about it in the books because I haven't read them. But anyway, I'm assuming it's the guy older in life, and basically he says that Louis lied, they've lied, the characters have lied, and so they are reiterating the actual history of what happened. And this show is exceptionally made. It is so entertaining, and if you've read the books or you've watched the stuff, you know that there's like a queer undertone to a lot of it, or in your face in certain cases. So like go into it understanding that you're going to have a lot of that. That movie, the acting is superb. It's just such a well-made show, and I absolutely love it. And I can't wait to start watching the new episodes. So Interview with the Vampire is my mine for this week.
Mine is my friend Ben Van Wielden. I always pronounce his name incorrectly. Ben, you can always correct me. Sorry, bud. But his solo project, Venomous Echoes, put an album out a couple months ago. It's called Split Formations and Infinite Mania. And if you like stuff that's like Leviathan and Portal and stuff, it's very like blackened death metal, all sorts of like weirdness in there and stuff. Super, super rad. This is a solo project. He does, as far as I'm aware, it's a solo project. I believe it's all him and everything. Okay. So I'd been talking to him online. Like, I grew up like playing in bands, like with his bands and stuff like that. And we've always kept in touch and stuff like that. And he sent me like an interview the other day that he was a part of and stuff. And I was like, oh, fuck yeah, I forgot to check that out. So I was checking that out the other day, and it was just like, holy shit, there's my thing to champion. Venomous Echoes. The album is called Split Formations and Infinite Mania. I would suggest checking out the song The Millions of Eyes Transformed. That is like my favorite song on the album. It's super rad. But yeah, give it a listen. You know, shout out to Venomous Echoes. Hopefully we get some more shit down the pipeline. Yeah, but now I love that. It is homework time.
The moment we've all been waiting for.
Dead Alive 2, The Electric Boogaloo.
Fuck you.
For next week, we are going to be covering the Nicolas Cage film, Mandy.
Oh, okay. All right.
So if you are not familiar with this film, it is, I know, streaming on Shudder and stuff. It might be streaming elsewhere. But
I don't know. Nicolas Cage's movies are very hit or miss, so this will be interesting to see.
I can't think of a film that is a bigger fever dream than this one. Right. Outside of like some David Lynch stuff. But like this movie is a pure fever dream. So yeah, so
that's what we're
going to be watching. You got Tasha.
All right.
It's rentable on most streaming services. It doesn't look like it's free.
Yeah. If anything, you can get a 7-day free trial on Shudder and get it that way. It probably would also be running on AMC Plus because they tend to run the same films. Like AMC, I believe, owns Shudder now or something along those lines. But yep, we're going to be watching Mandy for Pod of the Dead. I am Nicholas.
I'm Stephanie.
I'm Natasha.
Come back and listen to us, or else.